Welcome to the Talk and Chatter experience, powered by Gasoline Alley Harley-Davidson. My guest today is a high achiever in the motorcycle world. She's accumulated 15 Queensland titles between motocross and enduro. Alongside those victories, she's also competed in Australian 4 days, travelled to America to race motocross, and has been a motorcycle industry professional for over 20 years now. Hope you enjoy it. Okay. Welcome, Tamara Gray.
Hi.
Hi. We've just had like an hour chat before we even started.
We got a little bit excited.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've caught up.
It has been.
Who's Tamara Gray?
Good question. I guess Tamara Gray is a girl that found wheels or two wheels at a very young age and explored that pretty extensively throughout the first few decades of her life, and has had a lot of good things come from that, I guess.
You've basically obviously raced motorcycles, but you've put a career into it to this point as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. But obviously grew up racing motocross. It started when I was quite young, at 7.
Yeah.
Did some off-road as I got a little bit later in the career. When I left year 12, I went to work at my local bike shop when I was racing for it at the time.
What was your local bike shop at that time?
Springwood Suzuki.
Was it really?
Yep.
So you're local down this area?
No, actually, I'm not. No, I grew up out near towards Tivoli Raceway at Corunna Downs.
Okay, yep.
But last couple of years of high school, I was raced motocross, obviously, and was pretty fortunate to pick up some help from Suzuki Australia at the time.
Right.
At that point, end of my junior career, start of my senior career. So I was on a little RM125. I was riding for Tony at Springwood Suzuki. And I finished year 12 and pretty much started working there the week after. And I've worked in the industry ever since, retail and wholesale, all the way up until now, and that's now 21 years. Yeah, 21 years. Mm.
So Springwood Suzuki was the first point,
It was the first, yep. Gave me the start, taught me parts, taught me accessories, and went from there. I was there for a few years and then moved on to the next.
So your junior club, Wheel Standers?
Initially, yes, until it closed.
Rodney would have been...
Racing there when I was a kid, yes.
So you probably worked together at the time too?
Yes.
Yes.
100%, yes.
It's a very small community amongst people,
Yes, it is, yes.
So tell me this, there's a Wheel Standers team photo floating around. What was with the green hair and the green... What's going on there? Were you just a mad Kawasaki fan for a bit or what?
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a bit of a phase. Like my sister and some other friends we were racing with at the time, like I don't know, you're just rebellious.
Yeah.
Early high school, dye your hair, all fun colours. And yeah, I was riding Kawasaki's at that point in my life, and at the time they happened to be purple as well and green. So why would you not dye your hair purple and green?
That's right.
If you've got long blonde hair, it's pretty easy to dye. But yeah, one of those club photos has got proper green hair in it.
Yeah. It's got the late 90s
vibe.
You could fit straight into a...
Late 90s was like best time for moto.
No joke.
It was the best.
Absolutely.
We had the best gear.
Best fashion. Best
bikes
gear.
came with graphics.
Yeah, the
from
bikes.
standard,
Unreal.
like awesome graphics standard.
Well, you didn't need to have graphic companies.
Nope.
Because the bike graphics were...
Had like all sorts of stuff all over it.
Yeah,
they were... Like pink on the seat and stuff.
Have you... I know a few years ago you were riding a KX from that era.
I was.
Do you have one? Or is it someone you know or what?
No, that was mine. So when I had a brand new 94 KX60.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was my second new KX60. And I was around that age, must have been like a year or so later. I also ended up with a new 94 KX80. Must have been like a run out.
Right.
And by the time I kind of got to old enough to ride a 125, I think I had like a second-hand 96 or something. So when I got a little bit involved with doing the VMX at Badadabar, when that place was around, because that track was fantastic, I thought, I need to get myself a 94 KX 125. So now I found one of those. I actually found a few, and I needed it to like build one half decent, rideable, good one.
Because that was a good one.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
And I honestly just enjoyed riding it at Badadaba. So when that shut, I wasn't, overly
Yeah.
keen to keep on going. So I actually sold all of it on to someone else who was into those 94 KX 125, my entire kit.
Yep.
And got out of it. But I had it for a bit. I enjoyed it. It was a challenge, though. Every time I rode it, something would break on it. And I distinctly remember when I was riding these KXs at this time, at like 15 years old, going, this bike is a beast. It is humongous and it is so fast. Like I remember racing at Tivoli and at Wheelstanders and at Reedy Creek back in the day going, this thing is a beast. When I started to ride that thing at Badadaba, I was like, this is one of the slowest bikes.
How far we've come, eh?
And I had like, at the same time, like KTM 125s or 150s and type of stuff at the time. And I was like, these have come a way.
Yeah.
Like a way.
Because that was scary in the 90s.
Yeah, they didn't stop well. They didn't really handle nice.
No.
Definitely not the powerhouses that some of the late model 125s are now.
You know how you said you got the 94 KX60? What'd you have before that?
I had a 92 KX60.
What'd you start on before a KX? Or is that your first? Did you start it on Pee-wee or what?
No, I started on a QR50.
QR?
Yeah.
I was
a
trendsetter.
3 at the time. Yeah. And I got I don't even know what year KX60 it was to start off with for the first one. I had a QR and then I got little KX60 and then I started to race on a KX60 at Wheelstanders.
Right.
Yeah, doing motocross and oil track, flat track we had back then.
At Tivoli?
No,
or at Wheelstanders then?
Because back then, Wheelstanders was part of the QJMCA and Tivoli was part of the ACU, so it wasn't connected.
Oh.
I didn't start riding at Tivoli until Motorcycling Australia
ACU or
formed when it was an amalgamation of those two things. Despite living less than 2 Ks from Tivoli,
That's crazy.
I didn't ride there until I was much older.
Do you remember the first time you rode a KX60? I personally do, myself. I had a Pee-wee 50, XR80, and then I got to ride a KX60. It was life-changing from an XR80.
I don't think anyone forgets. No, I
it's
do
a moment
remember.
of life, yeah.
It was in the backyard at home. Yeah.
Scary things.
Brought home.
Yep.
Clutch, gears. Like, I think the power to weight ratio for the rider on a KX60 is like, there can't be another bike that competes with that.
Nah.
They're insane.
Short wheelbase, insane power.
Especially coming off a QR50, not even a Pee-wee 50. Like, we're talking about they're real slow in comparison.
Yep.
And I didn't know until a few years later when my younger sister got a Pee-wee 50. I was like, this is way better than the bike that I learnt on. But, yeah, step to a KX60 is gnarly.
Oh, yeah. It's funny how, like, there's certain things, and you would have been the same through the years, but certain things you hop on and you remember the day, down to a date, and
just like that 125 story I was telling you about.
Exactly right. You remember the feel. You remember everything, how it is. There's remember there used to be a speedway track out the front of Wheelstanders?
Oh, off to the side?
Off to the side, around the water tower or around a tower or something up the front left-hand corner, I think it was. Does that ring a bell?
Front left-hand corner, no. That the motocross track used to extend out to there. The speedway track was down the back on the inside of where the oil track was.
Was it near a tower or something? I'm going back a lot.
Yeah.
It was?
There was a tower down there.
Yeah. I got to ride a speedway bike there as a 12-year-old.
Okay.
And that's another one of those days that you sort of think.
Yeah, because I started at Wheelstanders in 1990.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Yeah. And it was back when, so on a club day you would do motocross and you would do flat track.
Oh, is that right?
Yep. And on the inside of the flat track would be like a junior speedway track.
Yep.
So all the kids on solos were riding around, so you could do both.
That's cool.
On a club day, yeah. So
how was motocross then?
It was very different to now. Yeah. No, it was good. I enjoyed it. Like, I just started off doing club days. We really just kind of focused on that. Back in the day, it was just like all the 60s and the Pee-wees were lumped in together and it was like 4 of us, I think.
Wow.
Just ride around, have a good time, try and survive.
It's a special moment, hey?
Yeah. I still remember vividly like my very first race and the start of it, which was on the oil track, not on the motocross track. I distinctly remember it.
What do you remember about it?
Burnt into my brain. How nervous I was.
Were you nervous?
Yeah, I was like 7, and
Yep.
I can still recall it. The feeling of the nervousness of like, oh, I'm about to do a race. Like these are other kids. Of course, I came last. It's terrible, but I still recall it vividly.
When you were 3, you probably don't remember, but family have said about, did you want to get on the bike at 3? I didn't. My parents were going to sell it because I was in tears. I was too scared.
No, I don't remember learning to ride, so it's happened before I've got memory.
A memory, yep.
To me, it's just always happened. But Mum and Dad have said to me, so we came from a background of extended families, like aunties, uncles, Mum and Dad, cousins, older cousins, doing camping riding, recreational riding,
Awesome.
RTCBs, that type of stuff. So, they'd all be out riding throughout the day, and my sister and I just hanging out the back of at the time, Dad's old Dyna truck, just playing in the tie downs and whatever else, because you're too little riding your push bike around.
Yep.
And so somewhere along the line, I must have said that I had, when do I get to start to ride a motorbike or whatever? And Mum and Dad had said to me, well, you cannot ride a motorbike until you take training wheels off a push bike. I was like, right, training wheels, they need to come off today. We're going down, we're going to learn.
Wow.
Yep. And then, it took me half an hour or something, figured out how to ride without the training wheels, and then Mum and Dad had to pony up and buy the QR50. So, no, there was a desire to want to...
Straight away.
Well, yeah, I wanted to. Everyone else got to ride. My cousins were riding, my mum was out riding, and I don't want to just hang around in the car. Like, that's
Playing
boring.
with the tie downs.
I don't want to play with the tie downs, swinging off things and whatever.
Yeah, it gets boring
It's
pretty
funny
quick.
the things that you remember as a kid.
For sure.
Like, I don't necessarily remember learning how to ride, but I remember that. Like, that's weird.
What about racetrack memories? Like rolling down a hill? Like, it's just stuff on the sideline. Do you have much fond memories of that?
Yeah. Like friends from when you were a little kid.
Yeah, yep.
Different tracks that you rode at that don't exist now. Like the way that a track used to be.
For sure.
The way that a venue used to be. I've got quite a lot of memories, actually, from my childhood.
Trailblazers, was that somewhere around there as well? Like,
Sure
I came
was.
from northern New South Wales, so we came up and I did the speedway bike there once. There was a thing at Chandler that they had, John Tipman put a flat track thing inside the Chandler aerodrome for speedway bikes.
Did you ever go and watch any of the supercrosses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used
Like
to come
went up the wall.
Up around the
and
wall.
stuff?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
So that was real crazy, actually. So
Trailblazers was a thing. It was nearby to Wheel Stand.
it's pretty close, one in the back area or something. Did you ever ride there?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, motocross and flat track over there.
Right. Because it was so weird. It's like coming from a small town to come up here to see two venues from my kid mind to be so close.
Yeah.
So it sort of seemed odd.
No.
And then Tivoli, not too far away either.
Tivoli not too far away. So, no, it was quite good. We had it okay. back
Did you
then
ride
for
at Tivoli
selection.
flat track at all?
Yes, but much, much, much later and nowhere near as much. Like I did a bit of dirt, like that flat track as a kid at Wheel Standers, and we would also go and do like the Kilcoy Ironman because you would do motocross and dirt track there as well.
That still goes, I think.
Does it?
I think they still have that event, yeah.
They still have the dirt track part?
I think so.
Okay. It's been years since I've obviously done that. But so I had done a little bit of dirt track, and then once the dirt track and speedway part of Wheel Standers shut,
Yep.
the motocross track took over, then that was kind of the end of the dirt track part for me. I just ended up doing the motocross part.
It's funny when you drive past there now, you look across and think, oh, there's a little bit of memory there.
Yeah, a lot of things happened there.
Yeah.
And it's particularly for that time before they had developed it where it sat and like you could still see the track sitting
Still
there
formed,
in the grass, and because all the livestock's been in there and kept the grass low, you can see like the tabletop in the middle.
Still look the same. Yeah.
Still looks exactly the same. Like, my dad and my mum, like they spent years of their life. Dad was a track prepper. Dad had an earth moving business. He was the one building the track, prepping the track.
So you said RTCBs and that sort of thing. So was your dad a racer or just... No?
Just...
So how did
Mum,
race...
just recreational trail ride it. Well, how did we get into racing?
Yeah, how did you get into racing then, if that's the case?
So back to extended family, I had older cousins who had gotten into doing some competition racing at Wheel Sanders.
Yep.
And I don't know if it was like, oh, we should get Tamara to go and do this, or I wanted to do it. I don't know,
Yep.
but it was, yeah, again, extended family were into it, and I just got into it as a result of that.
Were you good at the start?
No.
No?
Shocking. Terrible.
Lots of work.
Like they would let me, like I said, the 60s and the Pee-wees would go out together. Like, you know, they'd let me cut the track like the Pee-wees did to miss parts of that were a bit hard so that I would at least maybe get 2 laps in for the entire race. No, I was shocking. But I do kind of actually remember a point, I must have been a little bit later, where I was on a 60 and things started to click in my brain about, I should be trying to do this as fast as I can, not just ride around and, you know, off with the fairies.
Thinking about the tie downs.
Thinking about the tie downs in the car, or I was like little critters on the ground over there or whatever. And then, you know, once things started to, I guess, click in my head and I got a few more years of riding under my belt, did I start to improve. But I was a very slow learner.
I'm guessing, and probably more to the conversation we had prior, you must have been always a competitor, though. There must have been something there.
I would say yes in circumstances, but like I grew up racing with boys, always just boys.
Yep.
Like my first women's event wasn't until I was 17. So I'd spent really, you know, the first decade just racing with the boys. And obviously I was not competitive with that. You know, the best I ever did in 60s was get into B grade, and the best I ever did in juniors was, you know, get up into A grade before I went to senior. But like never, you know, hardly ever won anything. And, you know, you're just racing for the sake of racing. You enjoy it. It's good fun. You know, you're kind of judging your own results against yourself. The competitive nature of me came out when women's racing came around. And I was doing well at that. And that's when, you know, I would start to expect to be able to do well as a result from that. And that's when the competitive nature really came out.
So when did women's racing come? Was that more so like probably nearly when you just would have turned into a senior?
I was already a senior.
Pretty close, though, to that sort of timeline, hey?
It was 2001 would have been.
What was it like then?
We had the first women's race was at Coolum. It was a state title. So there were enough girls kind of just starting to ride at that point that they put together Queensland Women's Motocross Championship at Coolum. It was around Coolum.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and we had, because at that time there was so few ladies motocross races around, it drew girls not just from Queensland but everywhere.
Like a national sort of deal.
Well, kind of, because there was nowhere else to really race against other women regularly. So it ended up being a pretty decent race meeting, and it went from there. So then there had been Queensland Women's Motocross Championship every year since. So that was the first year. It was 2001.
It's crazy to see how far it's come, eh? Yeah, Coolum, crazy place.
Yeah, track was very different at Coolum then.
Was it?
It's like not black like it is now. The sand was different. That was not
still
long
a sand
after,
track though.
Yeah, it was not long after Coolum opened. It was like a new facility there.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've only been there in the recent times where that sand is just deep and
bottomless. Well, it was different. The sand was different when it first opened.
The world's changing.
World's changing.
So I'm going to stuff it up, but how many women's titles did you get in the end? 10?
No, between motocross and enduro, it ended up being 15.
Yep.
Yeah, Queensland titles.
That's pretty proud achievement, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty happy with it. There's always the missed opportunities that you think about, but yeah, in the end, it ended up being quite a few.
What were you riding on the turn of the century? 2000, you would have been, we're not going to say each other's age, but you would have been around the same age as myself. So you're on a senior bike, so you would have probably been on a 125.
I was on RM125 and a DRZ 400.
Oh, no.
I'm serious.
Wow.
Well, the Thundercross was on.
Oh, awesome.
Like, in that era.
Actually, that's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah. So there was a 400 class.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the time you either rode a YZF 400, which was, you know, pretty gnarly bike.
Yeah.
But because I was riding through Suzuki at the
Yep.
time. My dad bought a DRZ 400 and slapped 155 on the side of it, and we would race that thing too. I got 4th in like the 400 class at the Thundercross that year. Just, yeah.
What a
wild.
machine, though. That's a wild motocross machine.
Oh. And it's still the same bike now. It's,
For sure. You could run the same oil in it from then as well.
yeah, it's pretty gnarly. So, yeah, 2 polar opposites, RM125 and a DRZ 400.
That would have been coming to the tail end of anything that RM would have done, I'm guessing, too. There wouldn't have been much more after 99 on a 125.
No, I think that was pretty much finished up.
much it.
That DRZ wasn't electric start either.
Killer.
That was a nightmare.
Where'd the 155 come from?
As a junior, I was number 15.
Yeah.
And when I went to seniors, my mum actually worked at MA at that time, or MQ,
Oh, really? Yep.
doing licensing.
Were they out at Tivoli at that time?
Yes.
Yep.
So we didn't live far from there. So
Very
it was pretty
good.
close for mum. So as I was approaching the time to turn senior, mum was paying pretty close attention to what numbers. I originally wanted 115, but it was
Oh, favouritism.
taken.
No.
So mum was paying attention
Yep.
and keeping an eye out for what was coming up. And so on 55 was pretty close to 15. So that was the number that I adopted when I went to senior.
Is that right? That's why.
That's right.
Because it's interesting. Like, race numbers are such a personal thing for people. There's always a meaning, unless you're just branded with one, or
Yep.
But usually there is a significant meaning to it. So nothing else to it than that. Like,
Nope.
no.
No, and it like the reason I got 15 was that was just the number that was on my license when it got handed to me in 1990. You are number 15.
Wow.
Yeah, there's no
Just
no
stuck with it.
reason. Yep.
How was junior racing going through? Like, obviously you would have travelled a fair bit. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, well, growing up we did like all of the Southeast Queensland junior racing.
Yep.
We would do the Australian motocross titles when it was in Queensland. So I did like the Wheel Standers one, the Tivoli one, the one at Billawheeler as well as a junior.
Wow. Yep.
But we didn't really go anywhere outside of the Southeast Queensland area
Yep.
for racing. Yeah, it was pretty busy. It was good fun. I'd, grow up racing with your racetrack friends, so it was good.
Your club was such a strong club too. Like,
Yeah,
you
it was big.
have a look at the club and have a look at the people that have come through the club over the years. Wow. It's a pretty good history.
Well, it's kind of Wheel Standers was the catchment for Brisbane. If you lived in Brisbane, that was the
That
club.
was your club,
Like,
yep.
next closest club was Stanmore or Kilcoy or Tivoli.
Yeah.
So I guess by nature it's got a pretty big catchment area.
For sure.
To end up at Wheel Standers. It's a big loss when it went.
Yeah, it had so many. Like, if you go back through some of the photos and stuff of the time, and do you know Chase Overend? Do you know that name?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Chase is one of my best mates, and he has a go at me about my photography work because he thinks he's a professional. He listens, so he thinks he's a professional photographer. But he's got the Wheel Standers portfolio at home from the 90s, and
Yep.
some of it's pretty awesome. And
Yeah.
some of the faces, you're like, oh, seriously? That person?
The
That
end
person?
of year school photo
That's cool.
is a cracker.
It is.
Like, it's a cool piece in time. I don't think clubs do it now.
I
but
reckon.
No, it pops up every now and again. People post them on Facebook and you get tagged in it, on the 10 years or whatever that I appear in them. But
Yep.
the end of year school photo, everyone's sitting there with their,
Oh, that's
names
funny.
at the bottom. It's cool.
And you see the people, like you look at obviously McFarlane's,
Yep.
yourself,
Yep.
Dan-
Tiny Dan Reardon
Dan
down the front.
Reardon,
Yeah, all sorts of people.
so many different people, and you see them, kids, proper kids. It's a different era.
Mm-hmm.
In the 2000s, how did senior racing start for you? Obviously doing the women's stuff, but did you do any other gear as well at that time?
Well, the women's stuff was like one race a year. So
It was a national title, or it was
the state title or
in one race, so
so it's just that. So
Yep.
the rest of the time was just doing the sunny states. Again, Southeast Queensland as a senior.
yep.
So it was just, clubman lights, lining up against everyone else, doing all that jazz, and just do the one-off women's race that would pop up.
Yep.
The Thundercross was the next one to actually put a women's class in.
So what was Thundercross?
Thundercross was an excellent series.
Cool.
If this was still around, I'd have a crack at this one because it was great. So originally it was all about 4 strokes.
Yep.
And this was when everyone was obviously riding 2 strokes. So at the Thundercross, people would ride XRs and DRZs and basically farm bikes of the era.
Yep.
But it kind of morphed into the natural terrain motocross series. So, aside from racing at Mundubbera, all of the rest of the series was on, or maybe Conedale, the rest of the series was just farmer's paddock, marked out, slashed out, start gates pinned down, and away you go. That was the day's worth of racing.
That's the best.
It's the best series ever.
I know they're doing like the M Cross again in New South Wales.
Yeah, like that.
That's the closest possible thing we've got now, I think, hey?
Yeah. So that series put in a ladies' class. We were staggered start with the vintage bikes, actually. I remember that pretty vividly. But
Was that good?
It had its interesting moments.
It's interesting now, like same deal, like growing up through the eras. You look at the vintage scene now, the vintage bikes are some pretty potent bikes now. They're built so well.
Yeah, but like the vintage bikes in the early 2000s were like what's now the Evolution class, which is pretty old stuff. Vintage now is pre-95.
Which is still a modern bike.
Pretty modern.
Yeah, that's what you line up. You're like, this in the right hands, this is still pretty capable.
Exactly. Yep. Still really good bikes.
What were you riding then? Did you stay on the Suzukis for long? Because at some point you went to Yemi?
I did in 2002. So this is around when obviously 250Fs started to come in.
Oh yeah, the first ones.
254 strokes.
Yep.
Yeah. So I ended up buying a YZ250F in 2002.
Was that a good step?
When I could start it. It was a good step.
Those early things were just torture. Hey?
Decompression lever on the handlebars, hot start button, on the carburetor.
Anything.
If I crashed it, it was basically over during a race. It was just because I was a bit short and it was just hard work to start it if it fell over.
So coming from the RM, it would have been easy.
Coming from the DRZ, it was easy.
Or even DRZ. Because they were. I remember riding a 426 and that at the time. It was just, if you didn't get it in the first time.
My cousin had a 426 and it was like, this is a weapon.
My calves are still strong from trying to start them. They were torture. I remember going out Black Duck and that.
Yep.
Back in the day, and you just see people just just kicking away.
And just give up and go.
Just give up. Just give up. Just leave it.
So too hard.
Too hard. How long did you stay on the 250F for? That would have been quite a long time after that. Been through the era.
Up until I got a YZ125 to start doing some enduro racing in 2011.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so I had a 250F the entire time and it was a YZF from that point on.
When my first memory of yourself is a City Yamaha.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Pink van, Tamara.
Yep.
Right? You rode for them, or
yes.
That was the original relationship? Rode there, everything?
Yep.
What were you doing there? Like, obviously, different motocross series. What sort of stuff then?
So that was 2000s through to 2010-ish period. So we had a bit more women's racing kicking off then.
Yep.
A few more interstate rounds. An Australian Motocross Championship for women had started by that point. So I was kind of working towards that, along with, still doing, the normal classes at the Sunny State because it wasn't a women's round at that, etc. A lot of racing at that point. State and interstate stuff.
Was it hard to balance the time of that era? Like work, trying to live a life, everything? What was it like then?
That was kind of the era of when you worked in a bike shop. You were 6 days a week too.
For sure.
Monday to Friday and Saturday.
And Sunday was the expectation day.
Heck yeah. The midweek RDO was not a thing. So, you're working 6 days a week and you are packing up Saturday afternoon and you are going to go race. So I wasn't really able to do much riding during the week unless, I'd sort of start to take some days off here or there out of my annual leave if I had something bigger coming up. But they were really good to me too. I took 3 months off in 2005 and went to the US and raced there for a bit and they just kept my bike there in the shop, and I came back to work.
Really?
So, yep.
That was Marty and Ben,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Marty
Yep.
Ransom and Ben Ransom.
Yeah, they were there while I was there.
What'd you do in the US? Obviously racing, but what'd you do?
Obviously racing. I did a heap of riding, actually, and I rode a Honda while I was there, so I was not always on a Yamaha. Yeah, I was on a CRF over there. I did the first few rounds of the Women's Motocross Championships while I was there, which at that time coincided with the AMA Outdoors.
Yep.
So I did the first 2 rounds, which was at that time Glen Helen was like a prequel to the Outdoors,
Yeah,
which
right.
was round 1 for the women,
Yep.
and then Hangtown.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I did the first couple of rounds and just spent most time in Southern California riding and trying to get better. I improved a lot
Did you
in
go
that
by
time
yourself?
period. Yeah, basically.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where'd you base yourself?
Initially in Riverside and then moved out to Bakersfield, a little bit in
Oh, jeez.
Victorville as well.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I had at the time a guy that had helped me out earlier in my sort of racing career with Suzuki. He was now living over there doing some
Right.
race team stuff.
Yep.
So he was obviously the big motivator for me to get there and the support for me to get there and to do it. So, yeah, without him and his efforts with that, it would never have come about, not organically.
How was it in the States in 2005?
Oh, humongous compared to here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it an eye opener or was it more just
Big eye opener.
It
Tracks
was?
were huge, like
Yeah.
not like what we had here. The depth of competition was massive, not
How was
like
it-
what we had here.
how was your fitness?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was I happy with my results or how I rode? No. But
Why?
expectation.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah,
Your
that's
own
me.
expectation.
Yeah, my own expectation.
Did you have any family go see you in the 3 months?
No.
No. And at that time, we had no FaceTimes,
Nope.
no live results. Like
Nope.
no one would know nothing about it, eh?
Nope.
Like it's only a short time.
Yeah,
2005
like
just feels
email.
like yesterday. Yeah. The newsletter in
International
ADB.
phone calls.
Yeah. Different
Yeah.
time, eh?
Yeah, really different time.
How was the Honda?
Very foreign. It was an odd bike for me to get used to. I
Yeah.
remember struggling with it.
Really?
Yeah, to adapt to it and then throw in, however long
Throwing
they were.
2 crazy tracks.
Particularly Glen Helen. That one
Yeah.
was gnarly for that bike.
Really? What was bad about it? Well, not bad, but what was different compared to YZ at the time? Do you remember?
I was just used to the way that my YZ was set up suspension-wise and
Yep.
handling-wise. And just also the variance in the track was what made it challenging too. Like, so wide and fast and rough and,
Undulating.
yeah, Glen Helen is, yeah.
Glen Helen, like it's
Tiring too. Like,
yeah. Anyone that's been there, like, or anyone that's listening that hasn't been there, it's massive. Hey, like that hill, it's actually a legitimate
Yeah,
hill climb
it's
to
like
get up.
changing down gears to
Yeah,
make it up. You're
shifting
like,
cogs. Yeah,
I'm not sure if I'm going to get up this time.
no, it's like an enduro. You get to it, it's like getting to a hill at Transmoto. You know,
Yeah.
you're like, this is.
It is
pretty
exactly like that, or like at different times when the Matterhorn and Echo Valley's been from like an awkward start at the bottom,
Yep.
and you're not sure if you're
Am I
going
gonna
to
make it? You know?
am I going to make it, or am I have to have another go
It's like
at this?
sit back and just shifting down gears. So cool place though.
Yeah,
Exciting.
unreal.
Did you watch any racing over there at that time? Did you get to go to any other stuff?
Just the Vegas Supercross before Glen Helen, because it was like the weekend before or something.
05. Mm-hmm. Good era.
Real good era. Chad Reed won that
Did
night.
he?
Yep, and the title.
You've been, fortunate's not the right word because you worked your ass off to get to it, but you've travelled around the world to see a lot of motorsport events as well.
Oh, recently, yeah.
Yeah.
In the last few years, yeah. I've made it a bit of like the...
You've done a few donations.
Yeah, I've
You've been to the Supercross over there, obviously. Mm-hmm. Been good.
Unreal. Like, kind of used the... What kicked that off was a cancelled 4-day.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. What kicked that off was a cancelled 4-day. I can't even remember which 4-day now was cancelled, but we're all geared up. I had, all the money put aside for it.
Yep.
Ready to go. Annual leave in the bank. Ready to go. Got cancelled, and a really good friend of mine was going to England to watch the Madley Basin Motocross of Nations.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. We're standing at Coolum watching the MX Nationals. And the thing pops up on my phone, 4 days cancelled. I turn to my friend Ash and I'm like, 4 days cancelled. And he's like, you should come to England now. Because he was planning on going to go and watch Motocross of Nations. And I was like, oh, no, I can't. And I was like, oh, actually, there's not really any reason why I can't not go and do that. So anyway, lo and behold, we go all the way to the UK. We watch Motocross of Nations that year, and that was when Hunter was riding the RMZ 250, and he did so good, and it was fantastic. And just the experience, the vibe in the crowd, the travelling aspect.
There's nothing like it, eh?
Oh, nothing like it. And then so we got a bit hooked, and then we went to Redbud the next year, and then we went to Assen the year after, and then COVID wrecked everything.
Yeah, then the world got big again.
We were meant to go to France, and it didn't happen.
How was Manly Basin?
Oh, it was awesome.
It's a good spectator place, isn't it?
Fabulous, because the track sits inside a bit of a natural valley, so you've got perfect viewing, most of the whole way around. Weather was appalling. It was proper English weather.
What you expect.
It's raining and just pea soup, fog, wet, mud everywhere. Cars get bogged everywhere, but, nothing beats the enthusiasm of the fans in Europe for motocross. It's insane.
Because then you go to Redbud and you've got a different sort of enthusiasm, hey?
I feel it's a bit tamer.
Really?
Yeah, people think Redbud's wild. Comparatively,
yep.
That one at Manly Basin was nuts. And then when we went to Redbud next year, yeah, it's got its own flavour. But
just different.
I don't know, the Europeans are just wild.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to go to one.
You got to do it. It's cool.
Especially now everything seems so distant currently,
It seems almost impossible to think that you'll never
go to one of those.
Be able to do that ever again.
And then Assen, that was the wet.
Yeah, it was
terribly wet one.
Yeah,
how was that though?
3 from 3, because Redbud was wet too.
Yeah, it was.
Every year that we went was just cars bogged, raining, terrible weather. Assen was interesting. The stadium effect kind of lost some feel amongst the crowd. Seated grandstand.
Because it ran up along the straight grandstand of the MotoGP track.
And you couldn't see all the track. Literally where we were seated was we could see, the finish line and the part there, and then we were relying on the big screen. So I lost a bit from the vibe because of that, but still, fantastic. Watch Jeffrey Hurlings in his home country destroy a sand track. It's still one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
When you see it in person, what's it like? Is he just...
Your brain can't fathom how they do that.
Especially as a rider.
Yeah, you can't...
you ride motocross.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be able to make it around the track. Seriously looking at it, and then the way that they, he's... all of them still able to do the jumps that they do. And then, Dean Ferris is on the track, and Dean's doing a cracking job.
Yeah.
And, you're so proud to watch him, and Hunter and all the rest of the guys out there doing it. And...
Because who did we have there that year? Kyle Webster, Dean Ferris, and Regan Duffy?
And Regan Duffy, yeah, we did. And they all did awesome.
Awesome team.
Yeah.
But that's
such challenging conditions. And, to watch, anyone out there at the time is fantastic.
And, Dean Ferris comes from, what did he do, three straight in a row without being beaten in Australia?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Mm-hmm.
To see someone of that calibre, and then you see Jeffrey Hurlings in his peak of where he's at and stuff.
At that time, he was
you're just
slaying
wow,
it.
It's pretty cool to see that, and then multiplied by everyone else that's there.
Yeah,
that would be
the best of the best from everywhere.
It's an MVPs,
It is and to watch the racing is incredible.
What was Redbud like? Obviously, just take away the semi-atmosphere. What was it like there?
Oh, when I say semi-atmosphere, it's still cool.
Good.
It's still good. It's still cool. Again, higher level racing is fantastic. Travis Pastrana did the backflip for Puerto Rico. If you remember on the side lap, that was pretty wild.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw that. That was insane. Riding again was fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
While you're over there, you got to, through work at the time as well, you've done some stuff with Fox.
Yeah, it was a separate trip actually.
Was
to
it?
That one. Yeah.
Okay. You been to Fox HQ?
Yes, I have.
Tell me about that.
That's pretty cool. Obviously, for the company I work for, Monza Imports at the time, we were the distributors for Fox, and we would do a trip to Fox HQ with some dealers every year, and I was fortunate enough to go on one of the years and go to Fox HQ and check the joint out and see the design aspect of gear, creation.
Was it interesting?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also went to Oakley HQ, which is also really cool too.
It's a cool, like, I've seen the front end of it. You've probably seen the other part through work. But as a facility, it's pretty awesome, eh?
The Oakley one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's epic.
Yeah,
they have a track for a tank.
Really?
They have a tank out the front, and there's like a track where they drive a tank around.
America.
Yeah, America. Drive a tank around. No, they've got like, really cool flow mountain bike tracks in their property around Oakley HQ. Like, you get to see the manufacturing stuff. The history, like they've got a bit of a museum.
Because they still manufacture it there, don't they?
Yeah, some stuff's still there.
Some stuff,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep,
It's pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, so that was a thoroughly really cool thing to see.
How do you fit in with America? Do you enjoy being over there?
Put it like this: if I chose to spend time in Europe or the US, I would probably choose Europe over the US.
Yep.
I've been to the US a few times now,
Yep.
and yeah, I think I probably would prefer Australia above all else. But
Yeah, Australia's an awesome place.
Australia's great. We've got good food and good weather and
Yeah,
good
we're pretty lucky.
countryside. We're very lucky.
Yeah, it gets taken a bit for granted for sometimes.
Yeah, I think the more you travel.
How have you dealt with injuries?
I've had some crackers.
You've done your share.
Yeah, I've had a few. At the time, dealt with them well. It's not until I've gotten older have I had, I guess, niggles or complications from them, and I've had to maybe pay more attention to them in the last few years than I had throughout my racing career, that's for sure. But they've had their challenges, 100% have.
So what have you done? You've had a shoulder reco, knee reco?
Yeah, shoulder reco, knee reco, broken bones. But big one was when I broke my back. That one was really
How'd you do that?
I was practicing for Australian motocross titles at the time. Was midweek riding at just like a private stadium motocross track that I'd not been to before.
Yep.
And that age-old thing where like you probably shouldn't have rode that day.
Yeah.
And you just, in hindsight, know that you shouldn't have rode that day. I was just not really paying attention. Second lap on this track that I was just doing a sight lap on, what I thought was a tabletop was actually a double. And when I popped off the top of it, I landed on like the up face of the down ramp.
Yeah.
At a bit of a distance, and I collapsed into the bike. My bottom hit the seat, but with enough force that it burst one of the vertebrae in my back.
Yeah.
And I fell off to the side, and I instantly knew, aside from being really winded, that I had done something to my back because I couldn't feel my legs anymore. Like there was nothing for a bit, and then we're in the middle of nowhere. Only other friend is there riding at the time. I'm like, you need to get the ambulance. I'm not going to be able to get up. It took ages for the ambulance to get there. I had to come from Toowoomba. And so I ended up with this, horrendous nerve pain starting to feed back through my legs. It was horrific. Long story short, I get driven to Toowoomba. They're like, yeah, you've done some serious damage there. We need to airlift you to the PA. You need to have an operation.
Wow.
So I was airlifted to Brisbane and had surgery that night. Had a bone graft taken from my hip to reconstruct the vertebra in my back that I'd obliterated. I was lucky that when it had burst, it had mostly burst away from the spinal cord, so they didn't have to, wasn't too bad there, but I ended up with a bunch of rods and pins in my back and a disc removed, and so I got 2 vertebrae fused together. So what had happened there was like all of the nerves that run out of your spinal column, that, for me, because it was L1 that I had the issue with, so it affects my legs, and it just had nerve damage for the control function for my legs, basically. So it took me a bit to walk again because I didn't have that, and I had a lot of issue with nerve pain after that.
Wow.
It went for like years at a bad level, and I still have problems with it now, like overly sensitive to temperature. Like I can't walk around on a cold floor. Like cold to me is a pain feeling. It's not a temperature
Yep.
feeling, and like my legs never came back as strong or as explosive or as powerful. I've always got to work at that. And then 12 months later, because I was so young to have a spinal fusion done of that size.
So what
12
sort of
months
age was
later,
this?
2006, I was 23.
Damn. So just after the States?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Actually, just after that.
So you would have come home being somewhat on top of the world, feeling pretty good about America.
Well, yeah, so raised in the US, came home, got selected for like our elite rider training camp at the AIS.
Yep.
I remember doing that at the end of 2005, and not far into 2006 that happened, and it that sucked. Because then I had all that scaffolding in my back for the next year, knowing that I had to have it all taken out at the 12-month mark. So I had to go back in for another operation and take it all back out. Yeah.
So have you got any scaffolding in there still?
No.
It's all out?
Fortunately.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realise at the time. I thought, I feel really good. This is great. And then when I had it taken out, I was like, oh, no, I'm actually got way more mobility again now. Because they'd fused it over 3 vertebrae. So when they took it out, I at least got the movement back in one disc. The other one was still fused.
That's... When you're talking, like, you're saying, I broke a bone just before you sort of shrugged the bones off. But when you're talking spinal stuff...
It was drawn out too because, 4 weeks after I did that, I ended up with appendicitis. So then I had to have my appendix taken out because the medication was on. Ended up addicted to morphine-based painkillers.
You did?
To wean off of that. And it was a crap time.
I'm not going to say how'd you get addicted because a lot of people get addicted to it. But
You don't know until you are.
is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it was part of the prescription. You take X in the morning, X in the afternoon. This is what you need to keep moving. You need to keep moving. You can't just lay around.
This is your instruction manual. This is what you take.
This is your post-operation care. And I just ended up really sick one day, and I ended up having to go back to hospital, and this was after I'd had my appendix out. And by this point, I'm like, what else is going wrong with me?
It's a pretty bad run.
Yeah, I was not in the best spot. I'm back in hospital, and I'm trying to describe, I feel really sick, like I'm sweating, I don't know what's going on. And they're like, have you had your pain medication today? I'm like, no, I haven't. They give me a hit of morphine. I'm like, click of the fingers, I am good to go.
It's a marathon.
I am good to go. And it occurred to me right then that I had become dependent on the painkillers I was on. So I had to go and see my GP, and I was like, we need to come off this stuff.
Yeah.
Wean me off now. I don't care if I have some pain from this. I can't keep taking this because I can clearly see I'm addicted to morphine painkillers.
Wow. So
I understand how it happens because I could have never fathomed
easily.
How does that happen?
Yep.
Your body becomes used to it. When you don't give it to it, it's like, could scratch my skin off. It's ridiculous. It doesn't happen to me, but it does.
It can happen to anyone.
Can happen to anybody. And so ever since it taught me a lesson, I'm real cautious with painkillers and that type of stuff since.
Millions of people around the world are addicted to it. You can see so easily how it happens, eh?
Yep. You can't, I think, until you have experience with it, and then you just, your eyes are opened up to it. By no means was it bad. It was just a moment where I noticed, and it was brought to my attention that it had happened, and I was heading down that path, and I needed to stop it.
For sure. You obviously couldn't race at that time. You must have been off for 2 years, or did you still race with it? Or
young and dumb.
Yeah.
So that injury happened partway into the year, and I'd already started, I don't even remember, whatever series or whatever I'm getting into at this point.
Yep.
So obviously missed X amount of months when the injury first happened. And however the calendar must have worked out, or or points leads that I must have had or whatever, I actually ended up finishing a couple of races at the end of that season with all of that crap in my back still, just so that I could win a series. Like, and in hindsight, that's really silly. When I was advised not to do it at the time, you know, had I have done something similar again, it would have been catastrophic.
Yep.
But no, I actually did ride and I did race with that stuff in my back.
Oh, did it hurt or just got through it?
No, it didn't hurt. Like once it was stabilised and the initial operation part was over, the back was good. And
Yep.
I've not really had too many back problems since. It's more the carry on with my legs that stayed with me
From that part.
Yep. On. Yeah.
How's the shoulders and the knees go?
Good if I look after them.
Yeah.
Good if I look
muscle,
after them.
Trying to build muscle around them.
And just to stay
Mobility.
strong,
yeah.
active and healthy.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm 38 now, so if I have a bit of a lax in caring for myself, those types of niggles come back, and they come back in a vengeance.
It's weird, isn't it? Like the default you'd think would be just to relax, rest. Your body's going to be better if you rest or relax.
I've found it's almost the opposite for me.
Yeah, the more
To
you
an
do
extent.
something, the more you're out and moving and stuff. It sort of seems like it lubricates your bones.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm like, you can probably get away with that when you're in your 20s, you're earlier, you know.
Yeah.
You can rest your way out of a situation, the body recovers, but the older that you get, the more attention you need to pay to looking after yourself.
Definitely.
100%.
Keep mobile.
Yep. I've got a lot of years left I'd really like to live yet, so I need to look after this.
One of my friends that I do some enduro stuff with, he's got a few back issues and just life, like everyone's sort of had. And he's like, I don't know if I should ride this weekend. It's happened a few times now. My back's just broken. And he comes out and rides, and then for the next few days he's better because the weekend
He's moving.
Yep. The heat's gone through it. Everything obviously expands or whatever.
Yeah.
Once you get back into normal life where you sit behind a computer or whatever it is,
That's the killer.
it's a killer.
Yeah.
You know, sitting here doing a podcast or any of that sort of stuff, it's a killer.
That's the killer.
When did the off-road stuff start for you?
In
more focused.
2011.
11.
And it started because Queensland got the Australian 4-day Enduro in Mackay
At Gum Valley?
at Gum Valley.
Ah.
Yeah. I had not really done Enduro prior to that, and it had been a long time since Queensland had had a 4-day.
Yep.
And I just thought, it would be a cool event to do.
Good little road trip.
Bit of a road trip.
Yeah.
My sister had been racing some enduro for a few years before that, and she was looking to do the 4-day, so I thought, I'll do it with her.
Yeah.
So I got a Was 125 because the first few attempts I'd had at riding enduro on my Was 250F at the time, like kickstart version, was not very successful.
Even then.
Crashed many times.
Yep.
Was very not a good enduro rider. So yeah, it was at 125, and we was meant to do some like Queensland 2-day enduros in the lead up to it, so I would know how to use time cards and do work periods and all that type of stuff. But we had heaps of rain that year, so it ended up being that the first multi-day or time card event I had ever done was the 4-day.
Great start.
Great start. It was fabulous. Yeah.
How was it up there?
I enjoyed it, obviously, because then it very,
Your
as
path changed.
time went on from that defining point. That's when I started to dabble in both, and then I have eventually ended up just going that way predominantly. Just it kind of suited as I got older.
Did you enjoy it more?
Oh, the atmosphere is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I enjoyed the competition part of it. Like the people at Enduro are fantastic. The events.
Terrain,
like, it's hard at times, definitely, but I enjoyed the diversity of it, and I think a lot of the stuff and like techniques and the skills that I had learnt to do enduro in that last 8 years of the racing that I did
Yep.
made me such a better rider. And geez, I should have learnt how to do that earlier. Like just little things.
Did you like obviously? And I've been to some of your coaching events. Mm-hmm. Were you a good technically a good rider early on, or not really? Because if you have a look at pics of yourself, your technique's you've always had modern era.
I could show you some terrible ones.
Really? Because if you look at your photos, like probably the last 10 years.
Yeah, I worked hard at
good
that.
Technique.
Yeah.
Good body position. Is that something that wasn't natural?
Oh, no, that didn't come naturally. I was like an elbows down.
Yep.
Shocking leg angle, foot dabber. No, I worked on that hard. And
the foot dabber?
Foot dabber.
Yep.
Real bad. And no, I worked on that hard, but I guess I did enough to get by. Like I didn't refine that further, and it wasn't until I went into enduro did I have to become really specific about learning how to, do wheelies and front wheel placement and just more refined things that I learnt from that type of riding. It paid off big time. Like when I started to go back onto a motocross track, and it was like a mud motocross track. I used to really struggle in the mud on a motocross track, but I don't know if it was more mental, but I would line up at a mud race and I was like, well, this cannot be worse than X bog hole at the RTCB at Bow Desert.
It gives you a reference point. This is a
motocross track. This is easy. There's nothing on this that's worse than anything else I've had to ride in recently. So
gives you that reference.
Yeah, massively improved my skill set, hugely.
So your motocross improved a lot from doing enduro?
Yeah, big time. Mm-hmm.
It's weird, and I reckon it would be that way only. I don't reckon the motocross is a good intro to get to enduro, but I reckon the other way around would work so much better.
Well, I brought speed from motocross into enduro. I just lacked some of the smarts. And their ability in technical aspect, and I had to really work at it to learn that and to get better at it.
That's when I spoke to Mel Dalton, he said that from motocross he come in with it thinking, I've just got pace, I'll be fine. Yep. He had to learn how to slow that down
you do have to learn to slow that down.
It was a learning phase.
Yeah, because I just would be fast. It would be like wreckers or checkers, be flat out or on the ground. Yeah, it was gnarly. I broke some stuff.
Why did you go to obviously Kickstarter gives me a bit of a reason, but you've been on a two-stroke you've sort of stuck to it, hey? For lately anyway.
So I was on a Wiser 250F and Wiser 125 for the longest time, and about the time that I decided I'd want to have a crack at a bit more enduro, I want to do some more 4 days, then I went and bought a KTM, a 250 EXCF, electric start. And that's why I bought it, because Yamaha at the time did not have an electric start.
No, that took a little while.
4-stroke.
Yep.
And the WR was pretty outdated at that time.
Yep.
So I made the change to KTM specifically for that. And because I had already had 2 or 3 years riding a 125 at off-roads, I really struggled to adapt back to the weight and the engine braking part of a 4-stroke 250 in the bush. I did a year on it and crashed way worse, hurt myself, just struggled far worse than what I had on the 125.
Wow.
So the fabulous 200 EXC was awesome a bike machine at the time. Yep. And I had a bit of a ride on one of those and I was like, this could be a bit of me. So I ordered one of those and to this day, that bike is amazing. If they still made that, I would own one today.
Awesome bike. Fabulous.
I had the best year of off-road racing I had entirely on the next year on that 200 EXC. Like it was fabulous.
Yeah. I don't know why they dropped those.
I don't know. And then so they replaced it with a 150 XCW.
Yep.
I had a 150 SX at the time that that was the only motocross bike I had. It was just for fun motocross events. And
they were all right though too, weren't they?
Yeah. 150 SX. I won the women's class at the Sunny State on it.
Wow.
And got 4th in the 125 class.
Seriously?
And the races were
overall?
back to back.
Oh, he would have been knackered.
I was knackered. We had the women's race first, and then I would line directly straight up into the 125 race straight after that. And the only reason I did the Sunny State that year was I think Harvey Bay was the first round, and just wanted some seat time. Went up, raced Harvey Bay, won Harvey Bay round, and I was like, oh,
This is all right.
this is all right. Ended up doing the whole series. Yeah,
You did?
won on the 150. So I had the 150 anyway.
Yep.
So, yeah, KTM replaced it with a 150 XCW, and I thought, okay, well, that'll be cool. That'll be just like my 150 SX, but, wide ratio gearbox electric start version. It should be good, but it was not a 200 XC.
Nah.
No, I still missed it.
The 200 was just a really good size.
It was just the best bike.
Yep.
So, playful, heaps of torque, just a great bike. I do wish that they still made that.
I rode a 300 the other week for the first time in a long while at Conondale.
Yep.
Good place to have one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, and I got a current Husky 450.
Those 300s are good.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that was really fun. And it's just, I don't know, it felt light, but it's still heaps of torque. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, I must say.
I rode, I've ridden a 300XE, a TPI, and I was just
that's
real
what this was.
tight stuff though, and I didn't really get the benefit of it. But I did rode the Coffs Harbour Transmoto, the first Coffs Harbour Transmoto that they did, and I just was, because I didn't have an enduro bike at the time, I just borrowed a friend's 300 Husky two-stroke for that. We just shared it.
Yep.
And that brings back reminiscings of the 200, but just with a bit more
grow.
Just a bit more go to it.
They feel good though, hey?
Yeah, I liked it. I was a fan of it.
Yeah, that was what this was the TPI. And I'm like, this is actually really nice. It's, everything, and it was set up really nicely as well. I was like, oh, this is, I've only had my Husky for 6 months. I'm like, well, that was actually really nice. But
are you thinking about trading it in already?
No. Maybe. You know, it's like it's an endless thing. But my bike's really good because it's lazy. In the way of you can just cruise around, and I do a lot of photos out on the trails and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's easy to go, clock it in 6th gear, get out on a fire trail and just cruise along, which is better for that, know. So, but then I did ride the 790 as well, and that was pretty cool. So, but that's a bit bigger.
Good.
So, what about 4 days? How good have your 4 days been?
Mixed results.
Yeah.
Some were better than others. So the first.
But enjoyable though.
Oh, incredibly enjoyable.
Yep.
During the event, do I wish that I'm not there? Yes.
Sure.
At the end, I'm like, that was great. When's the next one? But there's points during the event like, why am I doing this? This is so hard.
Why does that happen, you reckon? Because you know what to expect because you've done it already.
Yeah, I know. I think your brain forgets the some of the torture of it and remembers the achievement and the triumph at the end.
It's weird though, isn't it?
It is weird because I signed up. I did Mackay and then I went and did the Warrigal one in Victoria.
Yep.
Which was great. I got third at that one actually, overall. So it was a big improvement on my YZ125. And then I did one at Cessnock. Yeah, I DNF'd that one though. I had a big stack and knocked myself out, so I didn't finish that one, which wasn't very good. And the one I did on the 200 XC was the Mount Buller one. That one was also
been cool.
Epic. That was great. Yeah.
Is that done at that property where they do some of the rider training and that?
I have no idea.
Don't know. Mm-mm. What one's been the favourite? Gun Valley?
The final moto at Gun Valley was the best. That was cool because that was at Gun Valley.
Yep.
That was fantastic. And I've got, distinct memories from different ones. There's a couple of tests from Warrigal that I remember that were awesome.
So what do they mean by test? What's a
Special test.
What's that?
So the way that the format works at a 4 days, you're running off of a time card. So you've basically got, liaison stages where you need to get point A to point B within a certain period of time.
Yep.
But throughout that stage, there'll be, a special test. So, where you've got a timed loop within that to get done. And that's the part that's making up your overall score for the override.
Yep.
overall for the event. So obviously lowest time wins. So you want to avoid picking up any trail penalties on the trail time stage.
Yep.
And you want to go best as you possibly can in the special test stage. So some of the special tests at different 4 days have been like really cool, really special. And you don't get to ride them every day. You ride them on different days, and
Yep.
you're doing about 200 to 250 k's a day.
Solid days.
Yeah, solid days.
Yep.
Long days.
Yeah, that's a long day.
It is, and then you got to do your own work on your bike in a very small window of time.
So that's part of it as well, isn't it?
Yep,
You've got to do-
100%.
Yep.
Yep, small work period in the morning, 15-minute work period in the afternoon.
What sort of things would you do? Filter change.
Air filter change,
Yep.
like an oil change, tyre change.
Really?
Both tyres. You're on
Yep.
a moose tube, so
Oh, yuck.
like practicing in the shed on how to change tyres in a time period, get the wheel out of your bike yourself because you can't have outside assistance.
It's all you, hey?
Yeah, it's all you. So
Yep.
like if you mangled something during the day, you need to be able to fix that or have a plan to fix it next morning. No one can help you. You need to
Handlebars
sort that
bent.
out.
Could be a handlebar change, anything, eh?
Yep. It could be anything.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Have you had any bad ones where you've had to go through lots of overnight work or anything?
No, I was pretty lucky, but I
Yep.
was like mindful and cautious of that. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're
No.
riding and wrecking your stuff, so that you've got to do all this work in the afternoon
For sure.
because you've got, X amount of time and okay, I'm doing an air filter and oil change and I really need to do 2 tyres tonight. Like,
Yep.
so
Needs to be done.
Needs to be done. I don't want to be changing headlights and handlebars and all this other stuff.
Throttle
I've wrecked.
tubes, clutch perches, none
Yeah,
of
I
that stuff.
don't want to have to put a new gear lever on and all this other crap.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Tell me about what's been one of the best events. What's some of your favourite events and venues? What have you really enjoyed?
I guess probably the transition into the fun events of like
Like a Transmoto?
like Transmotos and
Yep.
those types of things. Yeah.
It's funny how that comes up a lot.
Ride days, isn't it? It is funny.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we said about it before, your dust hustles, that sort of thing. Like,
Yep.
it's proper fun, hey?
It is proper fun. It's like pressure relieved.
Yep.
For whatever reason, people are more keen to give it a go. So, yeah, particularly like a Transmoto. You can do those types of Pony Express events all throughout the year, but it doesn't attract the same vibe, feeling,
Yep.
entrant numbers. It's cheaper, but
Yeah.
people still choose to do, the fun option. I think it has a lot to do with how it's marketed.
I think
And
that's
then
a huge
once
part.
people do it, they're
Yep.
like, yeah, that was great. I'll
We're
do it
in.
again.
Yeah,
Yep.
once you get them through the gate,
Once they have a
it's
positive
easy.
experience, yeah, of course they'll come back. They'll plan again for next year.
How's the cost one?
The Coffs one, that's the best one I've done. I've done the Conondale one, Coffs Harbour, and Coonawarra.
Where's Coonawarra?
New South Wales,
Ah, okay.
like rural New South Wales.
Dusty?
That was so bad.
You remember that
You remember,
Conondale one?
Goanna tracks?
Coonabarra brand?
Sorry, Coonabarra brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, there.
Is that where it was?
That's where it was. And it was just literally riding in a cloud of dust the entire lap.
Wow.
Can't see. Yeah.
You remember that Conondale one that you did?
I've done a couple. Which one?
19, I think you said. 2019, I think
The
you
one
mentioned
that
before.
I didn't finish? Or the
I don't
one
know.
that I did?
Don't know, but you remember going over the hill in the afternoon, the dust? There's probably the downhill that you've probably said about as well. You just couldn't see anything. It got completely rutted out. And
That might have been the one that I had to retire from early after I'd had a bit of a altercation with a downhill and a stack.
it was gnarly. I come down and I had Gemma Wilson overtook me, and I think she went over the bars or went over sideways, and I'm like, I'm 1/10 of the rider of her. I'm like gripping onto this thing with massive arm pump thinking, how am I going to get
I'm
down?
going to die. I did 3.
Yeah,
the
right.
first year I did it was in a mixed class.
Yep.
The second year I did it was with KTM in an all-girls class.
Yep. With Rosie and that.
Yep,
That class, yep.
with Rosie. And the third year I did it again with KTM, but I wadded myself up and didn't get to finish. The other 2 girls
Not
had
good.
to bring it home. No,
Not good.
no, it ended my day rapidly.
Have you got any plans to do another one yet?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah, I'd probably be keen.
Now, industry. You're a veteran in the industry in your young age currently. How's it changed over the years?
Yes, it has changed over the years. Yeah, as particularly in Southeast Queensland, like we've gone from having a lot of like smaller family-owned dealers and businesses to some bigger groups moving through and owning a lot of chains of stores. Yeah, so that's changed quite a bit.
And what about product-wise and stuff like that? How's like you're a rider as well as working in the business. How's protection changed?
Yeah, that's changed. Like we've had a lot of advancements with technology, particularly with helmets and
that's been big.
Understanding, head injury and concussion and, different types of armour with, different CE ratings now and knee braces. And there's been a lot of different changes, but, bikes have come so far too.
For sure. Within your position now, is that something that you get educated in? Like CE stuff? Like
yeah.
It's a big part of
That's
it now.
That's a big part of it. Mm-hmm.
When you first got in there, was it like that, or was it just seems like the helmets are so safe now. Knee braces, there's technology that's in a knee brace now.
The technology aspect to a lot
crazy.
of things is much more in depth than what I ever remember it being
Really?
20 years ago. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, a helmet used to be, shell and an EPS. It's not now. It's a lot of other things. It's, it's MIPS. It's rotational energy management. It's a lot of different things.
Which is
we have airbags for Christ's sake now.
Yeah.
We don't have that. We didn't have that.
You've got not a bit to do with airbags, but that's under your job banner.
Yeah. Well, Alpine Stars
is part of
makes an airbag.
Yep. Which is a proprietary airbag.
Yep. Correct. So I have a lot to do with that with what I do for work.
How's that work?
How does it work?
Yeah.
So the Alpine Stars system is like a self-contained vest. It has an ECU in the back protector, and the vest.
Does it?
Yeah. The vest itself contains sensors. So gyroscopic accelerometers, and they're paying attention to what the body is doing. Like Alpine Stars have been developing the algorithm in that ECU and airbags for more than 15 years. It's been commercially available since 2017, but they've been working on it for a hell of a lot longer.
Yeah.
So they've basically developed an algorithm where it's paying attention to your normal riding movements. The moment, one or more of those sensors detects that something abnormal, which is from historical data likely to lead to an accident, that's what deploys the pyrotechnics charge and inflates the airbags, just like a car airbag.
Yep.
So it's designed to be inflated before you make contact with, the ground or a car. So at the moment, it's only an application for road use or light adventure.
Yep.
But that program will expand. Yeah,
it's
like
crazy.
They're using it in the Dakar.
Yes.
We'll see versions of it at some point that have an off-road capability for sure.
It's awesome, hey, because I believe, and I might be wrong, but the Alpine Star ones bought over, they, as a proprietary product, will put it into another brand's leathers and stuff. That's right, hey?
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's the state-of-the-art one.
Yeah, well, so they've had a couple of different generations now.
Yep.
We're on to the latest airbag system called Tech Air 5, and it's standalone, independent from the garment that it goes in.
Okay. Yep.
So it does allow the end user to put that in any brand of suit or jacket, providing there's enough room to fit the vest and the expansion of the vest to run that in anything else. Yep.
You say historical data. Like I'm a nerd, so I've got to ask this question. Say you go out on the track the first time you wear it, there's no data. Will it expand?
No, it's already in the ECU. It knows.
It knows straight away.
So the algorithm is already into the ECU. So
that's already pre-programmed.
It's pre-programmed.
It's unreal.
So each vest, serial number vest, is assigned. If you bought one, Mick, its serial number XYZ is assigned to you via the Tech Air app or the portal. If you have a deployment, that vest records all the data from that deployment. Alpine Stars can log in and have a look and see what forces were experienced for that vest to deploy.
Wow.
All of that data is stored along with all of, Marc Marquez's stacks and misses and everyone else that does it, and to help them to continue to refine the algorithm for the use, whether it's on the racetrack or being used on the road.
Damn.
So that's why there's software updates for it. Like it's It's crazy smart.
It is. Troy Herfoss.
Yep.
He wears Alpine Stars.
He does.
He had a large incident earlier in the year, and
He did.
I was talking to him about it, and I was talking to him about his suit, and the suit goes back as well, like his particular one,
Yep.
so they can learn
Yep.
more from that. Unreal, eh? Like just
Alpine
it's constantly an evolving.
Well, Alpine Stars protects. That's their
thing.
That's their slogan. That's
Yeah.
their saying, and that is their goal. Like they want to protect their races. They want to learn everything that they can and produce technology that keeps them on the track, keeps
Yep.
them racing, and that filters down into the products that we can buy commercially and the average street rider can use, or us off-road guys can use as well.
Perfect.
Try and keep people riding longer.
It's not an ad either. It's just I was genuinely interested to.
It's an
to
interesting
find-
bit of kit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I spoke to Troy, I was talking to him about his leathers, and he goes, it goes back to house. They go through it, they dissect it, find
Yep.
out the good, the bad.
What
'Cause
can we
there's-
make better?
Yep, pretty cool.
How can we learn from this?
Where does it go?
Where does what go?
Engineering in that field. Where does it go? What's the
Well, like I said before, I think
off road obviously is off their way.
off-road, more coverage, easier for the end consumer to manage and repack themselves, because like at the moment it has to come after it's had a deployment, it needs to come back to a
Yep.
service centre for a new bladder and a new gas canister.
The charge. Yep.
So to make it more cost effective and easier for people to do, at the track, like how good would that be?
Be unreal.
It'd be fantastic.
It'd be so
My shoulder may not be so crappy if I had had an airbag.
That's it. Like if you can put in I haven't actually seen one outside of a suit, but if you can put one in your gear long term, like riding gear, off road, be so safe, and then be
Yeah.
able to repack it at the
Yep.
end of the day or whatever.
Yep, if it's had a deployment, it's
Yeah.
done its job. You just put some new canisters in it, away you go.
Off you go. And is that what they are? They're like the canister.
They're
Like
argon gas canisters.
argon.
Yep,
Wow.
argon gas canisters.
Well, thank you for giving me a bit of technical information.
Oh, that's okay. Next time we do a demo day, I'll have to tell you and come along.
I know
and
you
I'll
do. Yeah, I've seen
I'll
you do them and stuff, so I have to check that
do a
out.
test on you, and you can check it out and see what it is.
No, they won't fit.
We have all sizes.
Okay, I'll have to have a look. What was I going to say? I'm completely lost after that little part there.
Tangent.
But yeah, a little tangent. Now, your life of racing and everything, you've been interviewed by Scotty McKellar hundreds of times. What's been a good Scotty moment,
A bazillion times.
at least?
I've known Scotty McKellar since I was 7, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was part of the Wheel Standers crew. We grew up racing with his kids, like Peter and Matthew.
Yep. And a gentleman that, for people that don't listen, has dedicated his life to motorcycle racing in Australia.
Oh, like worked in the industry the entire time,
Yep.
and an announcer or
Give the shirt off his back to do it.
Just loves it.
Yep.
Like I still fortunately get to deal with Scotty on a day-to-day basis now. Works in one of the stores that I visit, and yeah, he's always quite keen to give me a razz up whenever he's doing the announcing. I happen to make an appearance at the track.
He's good value, hey?
He's good. I honestly couldn't. Funny story. I was flicking through like an old photo album at Mum's place a few weeks back, and I
Yep.
came across a picture of a Wheel Standers Club trophy presentation. We
Wow.
used to have them at Wet and Wild. Happened to be the very first year that I had obviously finished any racing, so it's 1991. So I got a club trophy. This is my first trophy. The person
Awesome.
that gives it to me is Scotty McKellar.
Damn.
There's a picture of him giving me the trophy. As a little tacker, I got my first trophy
30 years ago.
from Scotty. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
What was the trophy for? Finishing the year?
60cc C grade, third place
Oh, that's pretty cool,
for
actually.
motocross.
And you've still got it?
I do have
You
it.
need to take that home.
I do have it.
The
When I found that photo, I took a picture of it and I sent it through to Scotty.
Did you?
He was like chuffed.
He would have been.
Yeah, he was.
He's got such a memory for this stuff.
Yeah, he does.
He really into it,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. You started mountain biking again, or as such?
Yep.
E-biking.
E-biking.
How's that going?
I love it.
What
Yeah.
got you away from obviously riding bikes a little bit, motorcycles, into that? What got you into that?
I don't really know how I kind of really got into it. just kind of suggested maybe we should hire one of these. These could be a bit of fun.
Yep.
Like e-mountain bikes are a thing now. Should hire one. I had friends riding normal mountain bikes, but I could never ride with any of them because they're way stronger on a normal mountain bike than I ever would be.
Yeah.
Ended up hiring one. I thought, hey, this is a bit of fun, and led to buying one.
Yeah.
I just bought a basic one to start off with. I wasn't sure if I'd, something I'd really take to. Fast forward, I'm now onto the second one. It's far more expensive. Done heaps of Ks, and it's honestly replaced having an enduro motorcycle.
Do you have a motorcycle at all now?
Yeah. I
still
was
do?
a 250F.
Okay. Because you nearly wouldn't need one when you got an e-bike.
Yes and no. Yes and no. No, like I ride my mountain bike a lot, so, nearly every weekend, but it has a lot to do with the accessibility of it.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of the same feeling from riding that as what I would do riding my trail bike.
Yep.
So let's say I owned a WR250F or a Reggioed bike. Like the only place I could ride that remotely close to here, in the same format where it's free, I could start any time of the day, would be like the Glasshouse Mountains.
Yeah.
That's it. No, I have an e-bike and I can ride it. Cornubia, I can ride Daisy Hill, The Gap, Sanford, like heaps of places.
For sure. And you get, I explained it to someone the other day. There's like 7 places within 30 minutes of my house
Yep.
that have got different terrain in every one.
And it's free.
And it's nothing. And I'm the only one there.
Yep.
Like minimal. Mm-hmm. Pretty awesome.
It is. And, having an e-bike, obviously the speed picks it up.
Yep.
The overall ride time.
Yep.
You can do a lot of Ks in a relatively short period of time.
For sure.
Yeah, you get all of the same adrenaline rush out of it from the descents and the speed of it. All the technical aspects of it carries over from everything that I learnt at Enduro. And people are like, aren't e-bikes heavy? I'm like, no, ride a 100-kilo dirt bike in single track. This is nothing. This thing weighs nothing.
There's nothing bad about them.
No.
Like really, there's nothing bad.
No, they're a ton of fun. You've got one now. You're fully hooked.
I'm in.
You are proper
I'm addicted,
hooked.
and I've done 2 in 6 weeks, so I'm well in now.
What do you mean 2 in 6 weeks? 2 rides, or you bought 2?
I bought 2.
You bought 2?
Well, I bought one to dip my feet in the water, like you did.
Yeah, but I didn't do it within a fortnight. I waited a year.
I got it. I didn't like it.
Oh, okay.
I like the motor. The motor's great, but coming from what do we call them? Analog pedal bike.
Acoustic.
There's so many
call them
names.
acoustics.
So an acoustic bike compared to an electric bike, I had it was a really good package.
Yep.
Cashmere coat forks, everything like that on my acoustic bike.
Yeah.
And then I went to entry level bike like what you did.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't up to the spec of
You're like,
the old one.
Not so nice.
This is cool, but it's not right. So
It's not
I
right.
sold it, and I've kept my eye open, and I got a couple levels up of the same bike.
What did you get now?
E1 Giant Pro
Yeah, nice.
and Fox Fork,
Yeah.
Fox Shock.
Makes a difference.
Yeah, just especially after riding motorbike stuff, like
You appreciate.
you got feel a little bit of feel, and you sort of know what you sort of are after, and
what feels natural, what feels good.
what feels good and what feels
what
really
reacts
bad.
well,
Yeah.
what feels
Like you
terrible.
get to rocks on the first one. I got to rocks and it just felt like my arms were going to blow apart. It was
Yep.
just pounding, like it was just blowing through the valving.
Yep.
Well, there's no valving actually, just blew through whatever was there. And I'm like, this isn't good. And I went online to get my information.
Yep.
And you should never go online to get information. So I had a look and I'm like, okay, we'll leave that one there. We'll resell it to someone that doesn't
Yeah,
want
it's
that.
COVID
It's
times.
probably
People
lighter.
buy things.
People buy things just because they don't want them.
Correct.
And I did. And now I got this one and this is good.
Way better.
Yeah, it's awesome. We
Yeah.
did 20-something Ks this morning and it's I'll go do 20 Ks again this Harvey, I reckon.
You usually live right near Cornubia, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, good spot for it.
Perfect spot for an e-bike.
You've done a couple of events on it, race events.
Yeah, I did last year some like gravity. I actually won like the e-bike gravity enduro championship.
Well, you
last year.
should.
It's random.
Your Strava times.
Yes, bit of a Strava hunter. No, it's some longer events like the 53K like point to point at Paluma up in Townsville. I did that. The half epic at Hidden Vale, which is 55 k's.
Yep.
So some longer cross country stuff as well as some descent orientated, or some of that rocky trail stuff too.
Yeah.
Did some of those too. Yeah. So I did a few mountain bike races last year.
Was that good fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is good fun. I get like just have to remind myself not to get too competitive with it because that's by nature happens to me.
It's a hard thing.
Yes.
A hard thing not to.
It's a hard thing for me to manage.
55 Ks on there. Like I've done 30 something is about it for now.
Yep.
A couple of hours. What's 55 Ks like on one?
Depends on the track.
Yeah.
Like the 55 Ks at Hidden Vale was taxing and hard and got
Yeah.
to the end and you need to be managing your battery level.
Like eco.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
riding in an appropriate level so you make the distance.
Yeah.
But like the one that I did at Paluma, the track was a lot easier and I'd gone too cautiously on the battery modes I was picking, got to the end and had like, 30% battery left. And I was like, I really could have sent that way harder.
I left some in the tank.
I left heaps in the tank and got second as a result and then dirty. I didn't do it properly. But that event is actually back on again today. That
is it?
Paluma event. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You've ridden in the snow too? Snowy Mount Lethrobo?
Yes. Yeah.
Isn't that good?
That was epic. I've got a friend that lives in Canberra, so
Perfect.
I try and head down and visit him a few times a year.
Yeah.
Went down and actually infected him with the mountain bike bug.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had an e-bike and we went down there, rode at Stromlo on one day and the chairlift at Threadbow on the next day, and that was great.
Threadbow is fantastic.
I just did like a hire bike while I was down there, and it was a bit of a less spec than mine, so it kind of let me down. I'd be keen to go back again, but take my own pushy next time.
Yeah, it's one of those things. So once you get used to something, it's hard to go back.
It
off
is.
Something,
You hire something else, and it's like, this is terrible.
Yeah, it's enjoyable, but it's just not.
Yeah, I don't trust this bike. I feel like I'm going to break it.
No, there goes the lights again.
Yeah.
Threadbow. It was
cool.
That's a cool place.
There's Threadbow Valley Trail as well, so it goes between Jindabyne and Threadbow.
Yep.
It's a good pedal too.
Awesome.
Either direction or down and back.
Yeah, cool.
Follows the river the whole way.
The whole way there.
Yep. Yeah.
I've
That's a good ride.
I've only ridden there once, I think once or twice, but I left uni a couple of years ago over a Thursday afternoon, and I was like, I've got my mountain bike in my van. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going, but I'm going to drive and find somewhere. And I ended up in Threadbow.
That's random.
It was. And I rode Threadbow for a few days, and that was cool. That was a really exciting place to be.
That was the first time I've done like riding off of a chairlift, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a cool feeling.
Yeah,
so
it was
even
awesome.
just loading them up, you're like, all right, it's all foreign because
it's just weird.
We go to Daisy Hill, we chuck it out of the van and off you go.
Off you go. You ride around. It's pretty flat.
What's some goals for you? What else you got on?
What else have I got on? I think my goals at the moment are to increase my fitness and be strong and healthy and try a lot of different things that I've maybe not had the chances to try, or often I shouldn't say not had the chance, not given myself the chance to try.
Yep.
In the last 3 decades, racing and riding dirt bikes. So taking up a bit of running and just different sports like snowboarding, and still ride my bike obviously, but just figuring out some other things that I've never had time to do.
Because it's been hard. It's hard to divide your time. Hey, like when you're doing racing and stuff, you just don't.
Yeah.
That is your spare time out of your Monday to Friday work, and that's
just
your time.
work, and then you've got this race coming up this weekend. It's 4 hours drive away. I need to have everything prepped for that. Get back Sunday night, rinse and repeat for the next week.
Plus the work that you're in, it's still work.
It's still work.
Like you're away, it's still work. Even if you're racing for your whole life, you've worked in the industry, so there's still a portion of work involved in it of a weekend too, isn't there?
100% there is, and it's pretty singular focused.
Yep.
Yes.
100%.
So it's probably been important for me to diversify a bit. Yep, since
More moto, still do some things.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Whatever's on
I
the
still
table.
enjoy to ride.
Yeah.
Like 100% do. And if the ride event pops up,
Yep.
for fun, I would do it. Still love it.
Awesome.
Still do it. Still good at it. Still like it. It's just adding other things to the repertoire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I truly appreciate it. And we finally got it done. Jeez,
We
we've
did.
spoken
It
about
took
this
a
for a while. We've spoken about this for a
I'm
while.
too busy out doing other things.
Yeah, no, that's all good. And, it is your weekend. So thanks for taking the time to come in on a
No, thanks
Saturday.
for having me on the weekend.
Appreciate it.
It's much appreciated.
That's all we have time for on today's show. If you get the chance, head over to YouTube and hit subscribe on the Talk and Chatter page. Also, head over to iTunes and give us a star rating and a review there. It all helps to get the podcast out there. A big thank you goes to everyone that's been doing this already, and we'll be back with another show soon.